Hey everybody, Kimber from Moksha Yoga and Wellness here. Wanted to share some of my favorite quick and easy fall recipes that can help you kind of get the wheels turning as far as to how to adjust your diet for this seasonal transition. So the first one, obviously, apples are everywhere this time of year, and Ayurveda loves eating locally, eating what's in season, really just being a better part of your own ecosystem by eating what's plentiful and around you. And apples are one of those for me in North Carolina this time of year. But there's a compound in the skin of apples that can help keep our digestion regular in fall, which is so important because it's so easy to get a little dry, to get a little constipated. And we do not want that in fall time. That's an excess of Vata dosha. We want to keep things moving, keep our bowels going. Having a poop every day is really what it comes down to. So one of my favorite ways to cook apples this time of year, because a raw apple can sometimes aggravate Vata, so we prefer them to be cooked. So I will stew up some apples and I'll put a bunch of ghee in a pan. Ghee is clarified butter, super great healthy fat, super high smoke point, loved by all of Ayurveda. So I'll warm up some ghee in a pan, throw in some cut up apples, a little bit of cinnamon, perhaps a tiny bit of salt, and I'll just almost like pan fry those apples up. Alternatively, you can put them in a little saucepan and do this with some water and some ghee, and that'll make them just a little more watery. We always want moisture, more moisture in fall. These can be a really great breakfast. They can also be a really great appetizer to dinner. But remember, in Ayurveda, we don't want to eat fruit after a meal because it digests more quickly. So I know we all want healthy dessert ideas, but check out my other video on that if you're looking for ideas. Also, it's time for chai. I love chai. The spices in it are just so heating and warming that as a pitta person in summer when it's hot outside, it's not what I need. So I love it when the weather cools down. I can start to have some of these beautiful warming spices back. I like to do a decaf option because caffeine, it can be drying, it can be, kind of stimulating. It can actually aggravate a lot of these qualities of Vata, because of Vata, the dosha itself is already like very ungrounded, very mobile energy all over the place, and caffeine can just exacerbate that, which we don't always want. But I'll link to my homemade chai recipe video as well. So great this time of year. And then last, roasted veggies. Sounds simple, but this is a staple of my diet this time of year. So if we go back to what's in season, what's around, if I go to the farmer's market, it's a lot of squash. Butternut squash, acorn squash. I still have my carrots in the fridge from earlier in the season. So any of those veggies, chopping them up, heating the oven up to 425. Ghee, another great plug for ghee once again. It has such a high smoke point, it's not going to burn even with the oven set that high. And then using some of your favorite Ayurvedic spices to season them, or in the case of like an acorn squash, you can just cut it in half, dig out all the seeds, and then put it face down in the oil. It gets really soft and juicy. But you can do things like cumin, coriander, fennel, turmeric, a little bit of black pepper, a little bit of cinnamon. Things like butternut squash are really great with some of these sweet spices, cinnamon, ginger, cardamom. So spicing it up appropriately. Ayurveda loves our food to be appropriately spiced because it aids in the digestion. And then just letting it sit in the oven about 45 minutes for some of those bigger squashes. But super great dinner idea, and then you have leftovers for lunch the next day. And there's so many hearty veggies around this time of year that can be cooked really well like that. Another one of my favorites is to take the butternut squash and the big kind of bulb part at the bottom with the seeds. I cut that off. I use that in another recipe. And then the long neck, I'll slice into really thin discs, put those on the pan by themselves, and then they get like almost, I don't know, it's like a very, very healthy potato chip, if you will. It's like a butternut squash roasted chip. And those are really, really fun as well. Just making sure that you're peeling the squash before you do that. Otherwise you have that little ring around the edge that you're trying to bite through. So just some simple recipe ideas. Kate O'Donnell is one of my favorite Ayurvedic authors that has 2 great cookbooks out that always have a ton of recipes and ideas for the seasons. You can also check out Joyful Belly online. They have a whole free online recipe repository that's all about Ayurveda. So happy cooking. Remember that digestion is the root of all health, and so stay balanced this time of year. Make sure you're pooping every day, and I'll see y'all soon.